Hey, best girl. Gonna pop on real quick. All right, let me send this out. None of my hands not ashy no more. Cause my hands are so ashy. It's like, wait, this not gonna work. Oh, I forgot the other light. Or did I? Apparently I had it. Oof. Girl, I had to put something on there because it wasn't working. It was not working. Let me send this out really quickly before I get started, because I do not plan on being on here real long. Let me see. Come on in, come on in, come on in. I hope that y'all are well. I should put the whole title on here. Oh, hold on one second, y'all. I hope that y'all are well. I should put the whole title on here. Oh, hold on one second, y'all. Make sure. There we go. Put a 1 in the comments if you can hear me clearly. Put a 1 in the comments if you can hear me clearly. Today we're going to be talking about how unregulated power destroys the woman who wields it. And so we're really going to kind of dive deep into some spaces because there are a lot of amazing, I mean, extremely, extremely amazing, powerful women who are able to achieve amazing things, able to get things done, able to seem like to kind of grab all of the accolades and just everything. And that woman a lot of times tends to be extremely unregulated, and her being unregulated does not support her in living the life that she truly desires. This means that she tends to come up short when it comes down to her money. Not like she's not making any money, because she's making decent money. The issue at hand is that her money has plateaued, so she's hit a bit of a ceiling. She can't get past a certain salary cap. She can't get past a certain amount in business, so she tends to hit that ceiling. Her relationships seem to kind of be thinning out. They're there, but they're just thinning out, like everything is fizzling out. This particular woman, her leadership just kind of is descending instead of ascending. And the reason why is because internally she lacks stability. She lacks the internal hierarchy that is necessary in order for her to live the life that she truly, truly desires. And so for those who don't know who I am, my name is L. Antoinette. I'm a psychological identity strategist. And what I do specifically is I support my amazing clients who are high capacity women. I guide them to stabilize internal hierarchy so that money, so that relationships, and so that health does not fragment under pressure. Because a lot of women that are in spaces where they're doing well, a lot of them are extremely burnt out and sick. Hi, Lovey. And them being burnt out and sick is because they lack the internal hierarchy. Something is out of order, right? So if you're coming to my 3-day architecture intensive next week, then you know that we're going to be covering the aspect of order and identity, right? So the order actually is identity, mind, emotions, behavior. Okay, so that's really the hierarchy. If you're operating from a people-pleasing identity, because that is your default, thank you so much for these gifts and these likes, that is your default, then what you get out of that identity shapes your mind and your thought process. It impacts your emotions, and it changes the way you behave. Who you are and the people pleaser that you pretend to be, or that you are currently allowing yourself to operate from, are two different people. And you're not going to be able to switch that identity on your own, because if you did, or if you could, you would have done it already. So women tend to come to see me so we can stabilize that internal hierarchy, okay? Because when you stabilize your internal hierarchy, what happens is you make more money, money increases, health regulates, and relationships reorganize on their own. So the top 3 results that women get when they come to work with me is that women make more money. Yes, they do. Women come to work with me and they get healthier. Women come to work with me and they have better relationships with the masculine, and they're able to sustain healthy relationships within feminine community. Those are my top 3 results that I've gotten since I've been in business. I have supported hundreds of women with these results. I have impacted thousands of women by teaching a lot of the principles and the things that I teach according to, how can I describe it? I would say I'm like the bridge between feminine identity, feminine mysticism, and feminine science. So that's kind of like engulfs how I come in and what I focus on. And if you are clear on your feminine identity, and if you understand your power, which falls under the mysticism aspect, and if you are very, very clear on your design and how you operate, this means that you won't go against yourself. Okay. You won't work against your design. Okay. And you won't position yourself to be exhausted or to be used up by societal systems that intend to keep you a slave. So we're going to dive deep in today for the women who, they have some power in society and different things like that. They're able to make some things shake and move, but they're unregulated, and it's really going to cause some massive issues. So much like how I talked to y'all on Wednesday on how to make money that does not make sense, which you can go and check out that video on YouTube. I am going to be talking about today how unregulated power destroys the woman who is wielding it. If you cannot sustain what it is that you are begging for, it is going to crush you. And a lot of women are out here asking for things that they are not ready for. We have women who are begging for motherhood because you are solely basing it on the time frame of when a baby is literally a baby. So you're basing your desire for motherhood on basically 12 months. 12 months to a year, right? Another year. You're going, and when that baby goes into toddler stage, then preteen, then teenager, then all of these things, you're only going to have that baby for that short period of time. Your baby is going to be a baby. And some people are making lifestyle decisions based on that short period of time. And then when they find themselves in the state of motherhood, which is serious business, right? When you find yourself in a state of motherhood, you're extremely overwhelmed, and it's nothing like you thought it was going to be. You realize it was a lot more difficult than you thought it was going to be. And because of that, there's a struggle on the inside. Okay? So these are the things that we have to think about. You got to be very careful of the things that you are out here desiring, craving, claiming that you want. You need to understand what comes with that, from being married, motherhood, to building $1 million business. If that's what you want to do, you have to be the woman who can sustain that. It's not about doing what it needs. It's not about how can you make $1 million. It is about how do you become the woman who has a company or a corporation that makes $1 million. That's where the journey really lies. And a lot of people miss that, because if you don't go that way when it comes down to your journey, you will crack at the top. And I'm telling you what I know, because a lot of women who've come to work with me are doctors, are C-suite CEOs and executives and all of these different things. So these women are coming to work with me. Your doctors, your nurses, your nurse practitioners, your attorneys, your therapists, your CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. They're coming to see me because they're cracking at the top. They're getting sick at the top. It's a lot of womb issues that's happening because they're working against their bodies at the top. So they come to see me to get those energetics right, to literally stabilize the internal hierarchy so that they stop operating from the identity they had to create to survive. Because a lot of you think just because you turn 18, 21, 25, 30, 35, 40, you believe that you are grown. Grown actually focuses on your mindset and your maturity. So if you lack the maturity and you lack these things, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to operate from a grown space. Okay? And when I talk about a grown space, that means you being able to face yourself and face your reality. Okay? And I talked about last week, the 3 different realities that most people are living on. Go check that out on YouTube before it goes. Let me also make it very clear. in regard to my YouTube videos and how this is going to go from this point on for my YouTube family, right? You're no longer going to be able to get full videos after this month of the lives that I do here on TikTok. If you missed them, you missed them. You'll probably see maybe about 10 to 15 minutes of it on my YouTube channel, but the full video is going to be for my paid subscribers. Okay? Because I want to show them a lot of love and appreciation for investing in that space, because a lot of the information that I give, even on my free lives, is life-changing. But if you're not going to utilize it in the way it needs to be utilized, I'm not concerned about claps or anything like that. I don't care about that. I care about you getting results. Like I said, that's why when women come to work with me, they make more money. That's why when women come to work with me, they get healthier. That's why when women come to work with me, they have better relationships with the masculine and can sustain healthy relationships with the feminine. Because regardless if you are out here dating or not, you still need to know how to interact with men, because they're all over the world. They're everywhere you go. And you need to know how to operate from the fullness of your feminine essence to be able to leverage your relationship with men. Because I'm going to tell you like this. If you are not leveraging in your relationships, you're being leveraged. If we want to break it down a little bit further, if both parties in the relationship are not providing value, then you're being devalued, because you're giving it all that you got, the best that you got, Anita Baker. Okay? And I need you to stop. So the reality of the situation is, you have to understand your power as a woman, and how if you don't regulate yourself, you are not going to be able to sustain that. Period. Everything I teach is rooted in scripture and backed up by science. Thank you so much for these likes, and thank you for these gifts. Okay? So before I get into unregulated power destroys the woman who wields it, let me say that we have a bit of a house rule, okay? I need you to save your questions for me towards the end, because I can get a bit distracted, because I really be want to answer y'all questions. But I really got to get the message together. You know what I'm saying? And I gotta give what I've been, giving. I got to go and give it out. So hold your questions towards the end. I promise I'm going to answer them. If it's, no, there's no such thing as a stupid question. The next thing I'm going to ask of you is to sow into your own bank. Hi, Lovey. And what I mean by sowing into your own bank, everything I teach is rooted in scripture and backed up by science. So there is a law called the law of sowing and reaping, right? We love to talk about it when people piss us off. We love to talk about it when people do something to us. You're going to reap what you sow. We love to throw all that, word curses. Yeah, I know what y'all be doing. So throwing those things out there, but you need to understand that that is a real law. So when you sow value into an experience, you should expect value to come to you. I have this thing that I always say, right? I'm always met with fruit because I always sow value and drop seeds everywhere I go. I drop seeds to anyone in my proximity. It takes nothing off of me to pour into an individual that is next to me, because I pour so much into myself. I have a lot to give in that experience, and I understand the principles of giving. It's better to give than to receive. Why? Because whatever a man sows, ye shall reap. So if you continue to sow value, you're going to get value. This is why when you give, you should be a cheerful giver. And this is why I say this. If you find value in this live to the point to where it gives you some form of something, where you feel it on the inside of you like, oh, I've been waiting for this answer, or this resonates, or whatever the case may be, what I ask of you is to sow value. Sow value by liking the live, sow value by sharing the live with someone who needs it. Because if I'm not gatekeeping the message that I have been given, then why should you gatekeep it from anyone else? Okay? So pour into your own bank, sow into your own value bank by continuing to sow value. So if you are receiving value, all I ask is that you sow value by sharing or liking the live, not even asking you for gifts. If you feel led in that direction, hey, not gonna stop you. However, it's definitely not required, okay? So, again, for those who do not know who I am and this is your first time, my name is Elle Antoinette. I'm a psychological identity strategist, and what I do specifically is that I guide high-capacity women to stabilize internal hierarchy, so that money, so that health, so that relationships don't fragment under pressure. They don't break down under pressure. They don't break down under trial. They don't break down under, situational circumstance. You should not be breaking down every time something happens, because when you do that, you put a wedge between you and the things that you truly, truly desire. Emotional mastery is something I taught a couple of years ago. I don't teach emotional mastery as much anymore. What I focus on mainly is clearly like your nervous system and reprogramming. That is something I am extremely skilled and really, really good at, which is why I get the results that I get from my clients. So when you stabilize internal hierarchy, what happens is your money, it automatically increases. Your health begins to regulate because your cortisol levels go down because you're not having all that stress. And when you have too much cortisol on your body, as a person who used to be extremely a whole lot heavier, okay, when you are in constant stress, no matter how much you work out, no matter how much you try to eat right, that weight is going to stay on your body in specific areas. Okay, so you really want to get a move on when it comes down to your stress levels. So your health regulates and your relationships reorganize literally on their own. So that's what happens when you stabilize internal hierarchy. Okay, so thank you so much for the follow. Unregulated power destroys the woman who wields it. Okay, so I want to talk about something that high capacity women, and when I say high capacity, these are women who are able to do a multitude of things, have a multitude of things happening in her reality and have her hand in all of them. And a lot of times, because she's so good and so competent at what she does, most people tend to put her in charge, or she's the one who's volunteering and she's the leader. A lot of times she's the oldest daughter. A lot of times, this looks like she's the family manager in some sort or something. She's the one that made it. She's the one that did something different. She's the one everyone calls when they have the major questions, okay? So, but this is something that these high capacity women rarely audit. It's not productivity. It's not even confidence or money. It's power. What I have learned over the last 6 years of being in business is how much women do not understand and they are not aware of their power. Because if women really understood and really knew the depth and the magnitude of their power, you would not easily give it over to these systems. You would not easily give it over to men, especially the wrong type of men. And you would not even associate with people who would devalue your power. High capacity women rarely audit their power. They always looking at, what did I do? What did I do? Am I believing in myself? Did I do my affirmations? Did I get the money I'm trying to get? But nobody pays attention to the power. And the power is how you're able to build the confidence, to be productive, to get the money. So there has to be an audit that is done of the power, okay? So specifically, what happens when you have power without internal regulation, okay? You're not in a space where you're at a risk of failing, but you're more so in a risk of eroding, becoming like a shell of yourself, okay? So it is literally like somebody giving someone who has never had the type of money of $1 million in their hand, and they have no internal regulation, which means they have no boundaries, which means they have no value of self, which means the overall esteem is rooted in things that person probably does for other people. So they're always the victim in the experience because they're usually over functioning, overdoing, and always doing stuff for other people and never seeming to get exactly what it is that they are looking for themselves. And when you continue to feel like you're getting the short end of the stick, you slowly begin to rot away, because that's a breaking of the spirit. But a lot of women in that scenario don't realize the reason why the breaking of the spirit or the eroding is happening within self, or you're losing aspects of who you are. It's coming from you lacking internal regulation, the inability to regulate yourself inside. That's the thing. Okay, so this live and this information I'm gonna be talking about today is for the woman who tends to carry the room. When she walks in, she can stabilize conversation. She might be the mediator or the one that, in the group that everybody, she's like the mediator. She can make decisions extremely well under pressure. This woman probably was an undergrad, and when a paper was due at 11:59, she didn't start working on it until probably 10:30. She got it done by 11:59, but she was stressed the hell out the entire time while making sure that she get it done. So that is one aspect of her being able to make decisions under pressure. She is a person who solves problems extremely quickly. When somebody says something to her, her immediate default is to go into a solution instead of automatically just allowing them to vent or even checking to see if they just wanted to vent. The first thing that comes out of their mouth is, a solution, or how can I help, or XYZ. This woman also is considered to be strong by everyone. And I know that's a trigger for a lot of people, but I want you to think about it. They may not be calling you strong. They may not be calling you the word strong, but they're using other words that are synonymous, not the same, but that are synonymous with a strong personality. They're calling you dependable. They're calling you reliable. They're calling you ultra independent. They're calling you all competent. What they're letting you know is that they see a strength within you and they're highlighting that strength. You just don't see that they're still calling you strong. And here's what you have to understand. There's nothing wrong with being strong, because you have to have a level of strength to be able to thrive in this reality, because you're going to suffer forms of loss in this reality. So it requires a level of strength to be able to overcome those things. So if you get so caught up in, saying, I don't want to be strong, I don't want to be strong, then you are basically cursing yourself to be weak. What you're saying is, and this is what women really have to understand, there is power of life and death in your tongue, and you curse yourself with the things that you say. Instead of saying, oh, I don't want to be called strong, say exactly what it is. But no, you can't say exactly what it is, because you don't understand the depths of yourself to be able to articulate it. So let me help you, because I probably can. What you're actually saying when you're saying things in that sense of, thank you, my love, for these gifts and these likes. When you're saying, I don't want to be labeled as strong, all you're saying is, I don't want to carry everything. I only want to carry my part. That's what you say. Because just like you putting yourself under a spell by saying, I don't want to be labeled as strong, which is basically cursing yourself to be weak, which is the opposite of strong. What you should articulate is, I only want to carry what is a part of my assignment. See, that will make you start thinking, is this a part of my assignment, before you just hop in and start doing something, before you hop in and start solving a problem, before you hop in and start providing solutions, and then get pissed off when people don't do what you told them to do. But that wasn't your business, niece. That wasn't your business. And because of that, because it was not your business and you hopped in there, you have an expectation of appreciation. You're wild. Thank you, my love, for these gifts and these likes. You're wild. See, this is how I know a lot of you. This is what I'm saying. You weren't being a cheerful giver when you were giving that insight or that advice. You weren't being a cheerful giver. You were doing that in hopes to control the scenario so this person could do what you want them to do, because you believe that if they do this, then they won't be in this scenario anymore. But did they even ask you for that? People appreciate what they ask for. Do you understand what I'm telling you? People appreciate what they ask for. Even when it comes down to children. For those of you who celebrate holidays, right? The Christmas holiday is a really big thing where parents will buy things for their children, and children will provide a list, right? Children appreciate you getting the things that are on that list instead of you getting them a pair of socks. They're going to wear the socks, but they're going to appreciate more of you giving them what they asked for. See, y'all be getting mad when people say, I didn't ask you for that. And they are right. Instead of getting mad, how about you investigate why you felt the need to overgive in a scenario where you were not even asked? Let's deal with that part of yourself, because that's a part of an identity that you created to survive. That's what you're not addressing. You too busy projecting your anger onto this person, saying that they should appreciate you. You did something to get appreciation instead of doing it from the goodness and the cheerfulness of your heart, which is why you didn't get the result that you were looking for. The universe is an algorithm that is created by the Most High God. And that algorithm responded to the fact that you decided to do something to make yourself look good, or to make, try to control the scenario with this individual, and the universal algorithm showed you, you don't get appreciation for that. Nobody asked you for that. What you get is disgruntled behavior, or what you get is frustration because they didn't do what you asked. Thank you, my love, for these gifts, these likes, and these comments. Y'all gotta stop. If you really want to be a free woman for real, a free feminine woman for real, you gotta stop lying. Thank you, my love, for these gifts and these likes. At some point, y'all gonna have to stop lying, and y'all gonna have to get really clear on your words. Do you not see? I hear people saying things like, oh, the veil is thin. The veil is thin. We're starting to see what's really happening in the world, in this society. Let me tell you something. The veil is gone. And if you have eyes, if you have spiritual eyes, you've been seeing that for a while now. You've been seeing that for a while now. I need you to be clear. This is not the time for you to falsely speak over yourself. This is not the time for you to be ignorant and reckless with your words. This is the time for you to be timeline jumping into a new reality. This is the time for you to be creating the life you want. Because I told y'all, the decision, let me tell you something. The decisions that you make, okay, right now, this year, are going to determine your next 10 to 20. This year right here is the year of real life. I'm talking about, you should be taking off like lightning speed. It's really not a joke. And you can't do that when you are speaking ignorantly over yourself. Stop saying you don't desire to be strong. This is why everything collapses you. Everything breaks you down. And let me tell you something. How many hits to the heart do you think you can take before you develop something like broken heart syndrome, or you just check up out of here? Okay? Because it is so vital and so important. This is why it tells you in scripture to guard your heart above everything else, because from it flows life. And society programmed you to be okay with toxic relationships, knowing that it was going to destroy the quality of your life experience, understanding that it was going to curse generations. They knew this. They use the very thing. They use knowledge, secret knowledge, and spiritual knowledge against you when you have access to the same. You have access to the same. Many of you may look at scripture as if it is a book of, and the scripture I'm talking about is the Ethiopian Bible. Many of you may look at the scripture as it does this and it boxes you in. It doesn't box you in. It's a code. It's a code. And when you read this scripture, okay, let me block you. Because what are you talking about? The scripture is a code. And when you read the scripture, this is why it tells you it will tattoo itself on your heart. Okay? Because when you begin to repeatedly read it and really digest it, it begins to activate. And you begin to live it. Your life begins to shift. And things that you thought were so far away from you begins to open all the way up for you. Okay? Hold on, let me put this. TikTok is doing this thing. All right. It opens all the way up for you. So be very careful of the things that you say about yourself. Be very careful about the things that you say about yourself and to yourself. So stop saying things like, oh, I don't want to be known as this. I don't want to be known as that. Just say you don't want to carry nothing that's not yours. Just say that you don't want to do anything that's not a part of your assignment. That's well within your right. Train yourself to understand that and stop trying to label yourself as someone who you don't want to be seen as strong. Because when you experience loss, because we all experience some form of loss, family member, loss of it could be anything. If you don't have strength, you're not going to be able to overcome. And a big part of this reality, the earthly reality, is being able to overcome. Okay? So, like I said, this is for the woman who carries rooms, who stabilizes conversations, makes decisions under pressure, solves problems quickly, is considered strong by everyone, okay? But privately, she feels tired, tight. She feels slightly resentful. She feels mentally overloaded, like something is misaligned within herself and within her life. What I need you to understand is that this is not necessarily a weakness. You're just over leveraged internally. You're giving way too much. You're just giving it out. And that's something that has to shift. Let's talk about misuse power for a second, because that's the first element of this. Because we're talking about, if you just now joined, we're talking about how unregulated power destroys the woman who wields it. If you have power and you are unregulated, you're going to self-destruct, because eventually you're going to become your own enemy. Okay? And the enemy has come to steal, kill, and destroy. And the destroy part is for you to self-destruct. So you miss your mark, which is to sin. To miss your mark is to not be on assignment, because everybody got one. The plants have an assignment. The trees have an assignment. The stars and moon are celestial bodies. They have the stars, the sun and the moon. They have a assignment. They have to show up every single day. So these are the things that we really have to pay attention to, when we really have to realize. A lot of you are overly internally leveraged, and we have to fix that. Hi, Lovey. So let's talk about misuse power, okay? So first and foremost, let's define misuse without any form of drama behind it, right? So misuse isn't necessarily cruelty. And I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to catch what I'm telling you. When I talk about misuse power or misuse of power, I want you to think about the society that you live in, okay? I want you to think about the society you live in as I'm describing these things. Because when you don't rise above the identity that you created to survive in order to step into the one that really is you, you operate the same way, but just on a lower level. This is one aspect of how the people in power got in power. They misused power. They had access to spiritual knowledge and power, and they misused it using glamour magic. We talk about this. Thank you, my love, for these gifts, these likes, these comments. Glamour magic. They use things like psychological spell work. They make things seem like it's okay when it's really not okay, not telling you the ramifications of the things that are going to come behind you doing X, Y, and Z. Okay? So these things are very, very important. So like I said, consider your society when I'm talking about this. So let's define misuse. We're talking about misuse power. Okay? Let's define misuse without drama. Misuse is not necessarily cruelty. Okay? There are some very dark, demonic things that are happening behind the scenes, right? But of course, the portrayal for a long time has been, we're the best country in the land, we're this, we're this, we're this, we're this. But misuse, again, is not necessarily cruelty, necessarily being mean to you. It is me withholding clarity from you. It's me withholding clarity from you. It's me not telling you that if you take birth control, it's going to mute your attraction, your natural attraction cycle. So if you try to date people while on birth control, you may not really like them because you're in a simulated state, which means that your hormones are operating different. You're not really operating the same. But no, here go your birth control pills. They don't tell you with the different colors of their birth control pills. They withhold clarity by not letting you know that these colors and all of this represent the 4 phases of your menstrual cycle. And if you simply just align with that and you ate according to that, you probably wouldn't have a lot of the womb issues because you're not necessarily eating for the health of your organs. But no, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you, here's the birth control. This is coming from someone who used to have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And the first thing they said was, here is the birth control. But they withhold clarity. They withhold clarity around, it was one young lady who was on here talking about it. It's the phase of the cycle that happens if you see brown. She called it the barbecue phase, which I thought was hilarious. She was like, if you're going through the barbecue phase of your cycle before or after, that's not normal. You know why they told you that is normal? Because it's common. Why is it common? Because a lot of women have issues with progesterone. That is what that's letting you know if you're in the barbecue phase. If you're seeing that, like the young lady said, you're seeing the brown, there's some issues around progesterone, which is very important when it comes down to your cycle. But see, there's no clarity. They withhold the clarity around it by not telling you to correct the issue, which is to address the progesterone. And I'm not talking about by you just taking a pill. I'm talking about more so for you eating for your organs. Oh yeah, I talk about this heavy in the physics of rhythm. If y'all want more information on that, you can click the link in the bio. I'm breaking down your sun clock, your moon clock, everything that they're not telling you around your hormonal imbalance. You can click the link in the bio and get access to it for Klarna Farming Afterpay. So misuse of power is not always cruelty, right? I'm not familiar with that, Lovey. So I don't want to tell you what that is. I'm not familiar with that. It's not necessarily cruelty. What it is withholding clarity. What it is avoiding clean confrontation. It's avoiding clean confrontation. They ain't gonna let y'all see them about what y'all saw in them emails. They avoiding clean confrontation. That's a form of misuse of power. If you are avoiding clean confrontation in your life, much like the powers that be, that's a misuse of power. Another misuse of power is to let dysfunction linger. Another misuse of power looks like letting dysfunction linger. I was raised in New Orleans. Y'all really want to believe, and I'm not going to get too heavy on this, but y'all really want to believe they led you to believe that a lot of people died in the storm. That's not true. A lot of people died because dysfunction was allowed to linger after the storm. And I was in college at the time, so I wasn't there, but I just want you to imagine for a second. Stories were being paraded around as if dysfunction was continuing to just occur and all this crazy stuff was happening. But I just want to put this on your mind for a second, because you never know what could be your reality. Better remember where you live at. So first things first, I want you to think about a storm happening. See, like I said, I grew up in New Orleans. They've been saying for a long time New Orleans was going to flood and all that since I was a little girl and all of this and all that, right? And when I was a little girl, we had to leave because so many hurricanes would come and it would be a threat. And then the hurricane would turn around at the last minute. So here we are going out of town, spending money, doing this for the hurricane to turn around every single time. So now we get to the space of 05, right? And people are hearing, yeah, it's coming, da, da, da. So some people are hearing that like, I'm just going to ride it out. I'm just going to stay. Oh, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do that. When that storm happened and all that water came into the city because of the levees, right, being a whole nother conversation. All that water came into the city. If you're from New Orleans, you know there's such a thing as neutral rats. If you don't know what a neutral rat is, I challenge you to go look it up. It is a rat that is big as a cat. And I'm not even kidding. I'm talking about a fat cat. You understand what I'm telling you? So you have to think about the humidity and the heat that's in New Orleans in August. Because when I tell you be hot as hell, be hot as hell. And it's not that dry heat. It's the sticky, humid heat. So we have water that has been sitting for a while. We have the mosquitoes that are completely insane in Louisiana alone. We have bodies. We have people being that are dehydrated. We have women on their side. We have all these things that are happening in this space. And then you are seeing helicopters go across you. You are seeing lights and news cameras. You are not seeing anybody bring you food. You are hearing people make promises after day 1, 2, 3. Tell me that you would be in your right mind. Tell me that you would be in your right mind, especially if you had children with you. And when I tell you the water gets heavy in New Orleans and it gets high, let me put you on game. When I was 6 years old, it was raining so bad. In New Orleans, it could rain for 30 minutes to start the flood. But this particular day, and I've been in several floods, but this particular day, I was 6. My mama was pregnant with my brother. The water was so high, my mother had to walk She had to pick me up at 6 years old while being pregnant with my brother. The water was at her knees. So at me being 6, the water was really on me. And she had to walk through that. Imagine walking through that and experiencing that in the dead heat, basically of summer, in a humid city where people are saying that they're going to continue to come and help you and support you. How you think you finna act? And I'm not justifying anything, but what I am telling you is to think. Is to think. Because at this point, you're thinking that no one is coming. These people could have got and did a whole lot, but they allowed dysfunction to linger for days, which resulted in a multitude of deaths. And that is the truth. A misuse of power looks like letting dysfunction linger. Look at your own life and see where you are allowing dysfunction to linger, because that is a misuse of your power, which is why when it's time for you to show up powerfully, you don't have any, because you are wasting time allowing things to linger that don't belong. Another misuse of power is over-functioning instead of restructuring, trying to do and compensate and do every single thing instead of focusing on the structure so you can receive what you need. A lot of women in business do this. A lot of women in relationships do this. You do it in business because here you are spending all this time at the computer creating and hustling and doing this and doing that, when you need to be setting up systems to be able to receive. Exactly. Hustling is a form of, is a misuse of power that isn't seen as, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a hustling, over functioning is a form of hustling. It's a form of hustling, because where you could be setting up your system to be able to receive, you are trying to fix everything. And this is what goes wrong with people who want to DIY everything as well. When you want to DIY every single thing, you don't allow yourself to be supported by setting up the structure, which is why you allow yourself to be exhausted. A misuse of your power. Another way to misuse power: carrying more than your roles requires. Why are you volunteering for extra things? Because you are operating from the people-pleasing mentality. You are operating from, I would want somebody to do that for me. You are operating from, well, they'll see me as a hard-working worker. You can't stop what's for you. See, I ain't never had to kiss nobody tail. I'm just not that type. And I don't believe that you ever have to kiss nobody's tail, because I believe that what is for you is for you. I would never miss what's mine as long as I'm in position to receive. If I miss it, I wasn't in position to receive. So it either wasn't time or I wasn't listening. Nobody can withhold something. So there is no need for me to alter myself and my personality to please you so you can pick me. The pick me energy that y'all talk about in relationships is the same energy that you carry into business, you carry into work, you carry into your life. Choose me. Pick to understand me. If you are craving to be understood all of the time, that's pick me energy too, because you are begging for someone to understand you when they're already committed to misunderstanding you. Why are you arguing with their perception of how they see you? I don't argue with nobody's perception of how they see me. None. If you're committed to their perception, I don't care, because a wise woman would investigate the land. She would scope out what's actually going on before making an assessment or a judgment. That's why I don't waste time even being concerned about what other people, what their opinions are in regard to me or how I do whatever none of that matters to me, because I don't misuse my power. That's the thing. I don't misuse my power. I don't carry more than what my role requires. I don't do anything additional that's not according to in alignment with my assignment. Thank you, my love, for these follows and these gifts. Y'all, I have a goal. I want to get this live to 25,000. So if you are receiving value, I ask that you share the live. I ask that you like the live to sow value, not really so much even into my experience, but back into yours. According to the law of sowing and reaping, if you sow value, you will receive value. Value will always meet you there. Okay? So thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it. So when we're talking about the misuse of power, like I said, that isn't necessarily cruelty, it's withholding clarity. You know, when you're in a relationship with them and you get to the point, now I wouldn't ask no man this, but if you get to the point you ask the man, like, what are we? And he kind of giving you, he's withholding clarity. He's misusing his power. He's misusing power. He has the power to give you the direction, but he's refusing to give it to you because he wants you to be confused. Okay? So it's withholding clarity, it's avoiding clean confrontation, it's letting dysfunction linger, it's overfunctioning instead of restructuring, it's carrying more roles carrying more than your roles require. Thank you, my love, for these gifts, these likes, and these comments. Okay? When you allow disorder to remain, it's because you can handle it. Because in your mind, you always handle everything. So you can handle it. You can take it. That's literally like the training that you got going on the inside of you. Seriously, I'm not even kidding. Thank you, my love, for these follows as well. When you allow disorder to remain, it's because you can handle it in your mind. But the truth is, you're misusing your capacity. While you're wasting time pouring into this individual, while you're wasting time pouring into this corporation, while you're wasting time pouring into experiences that are not pouring back into you, you could be taking that time, energy, attention, and focusing in a different direction. Where this is, and I'll use this in a sense of how you'll hear a lot of women talk about relationships. They'll say, you know, here you are begging on this end, asking for this person to do this, do that, do this, do that, right? And the person is basically fighting you on that. They're not really giving you what it is that you're asking for. They're not really giving you those things, okay? So it's really, really important and extremely vital for you to be able to recognize that and realize at the same time that someone else will come into that space and do this with ease. With ease. But yet here you are wasting your time, your energy, your attention, focusing on this right here. You're in a space where you're trying to advocate at a corporation for something when another corporation will take you, pay you a higher salary, and treat you a whole lot better than you trying to advocate for somebody to see you in this space. Okay? So I need you to understand, when you allow disorder because you feel like you can handle it, you are misusing your capacity. This is why you don't have the energy to do the things you need to do. Y'all not gonna like what I'm gonna say. Y'all not gonna like what I'm gonna say, but I'm just gonna tell you the truth. These corporate entities have tricked a lot of parents into giving their time, energy, attention to them, so much of it to them, allowing them to tax on your soul to meet their goals to where you can't even get home and really parent your child. See, when you get home, you so exhausted that you putting an iPad in your baby face because you just need to get a break so you can think for a second. That's how much psychological spell work has been done in this society to make you believe that you need that job, when in reality, that job needs you in order to tax on your soul to meet their goals. But because collectively, society is still under the spell, people are not going to stop walking into these spaces because you really believe you need them. You've made them your God. A lot of you have made these corporations and different things your God, and you wondering why it's not giving you and yielding you the result that you're looking for. Said, I just got fired. It's been the best thing for me and my boys. Let me tell you something. Because here's the thing. If you're not in command of yourself, you're not in command of your home, and you're not in command of your children. I'm just being real with you. As a latchkey kid who grew up because my mama had to work, my folks had to work. When you are not in command of yourself, this is why when I talk about generational wealth, one of the key things I say is time freedom is important. Time freedom is important in this society because the oppressors of this society understand. They understand when you are in a space where you don't value your time and you don't value your energy, they will use it up because they understand that time is not coming back. That's why they give you a pen after you being there for 30 years. But you have it in your mind that they should be giving you more. You have a higher expectation when in reality, you literally sold your soul for 30, 40 years. And they gave you a pen in a cheap salary. Because I know you didn't even go in there and negotiate your salary. You left $50,000 in the bank. You're so happy to be in the door that you're not even asking for what it is that is required for you to be in the experience. And in a pizza party. Literally. How long are you going to allow these to play in your face? You are misusing your capacity. And capacity without structure literally becomes self-sacrifice disguised as leadership. I'm going to say that again. Capacity without structure becomes self-sacrifice disguised as leadership. You are not collapsing. So you may not necessarily be breaking down, but you are compensating. And eventually you're going to come up real short. You're going to come up real short. You want to know why these older people are bitter? Let's talk about it. You want to talk about why a lot of these boomers and baby boomers are bitter? Because they hate the decisions and choices that they made with their life. They are now in a space where they are reflecting about the decisions they made in their 20s, the decisions they made in their 30s, the decisions they made in their 40s, even down to having kids. They feel bamboozled and lied to too. And then for the kids to grow up and be looking at you like you caused me all this trauma, and they like, I died trying to be here with you. These are the things that we really need to start paying attention to. The generation that raised a lot of us millennials, they self-sacrificed. They had to. Wasn't nobody talking about no therapy. Wasn't nobody talk. Everybody, you grit and you bared it. You grit and you bared it. When I think about my mother was literally a child when slavery was abolished. She got stories walking across a field and the man turning on the sprayers with the chemicals on them while watching them go to school. Then from that, they're told to follow this program and do this and do that. And now they're looking at their life too, like, what is this? So yeah, they're bitter. They are. Absolutely. And we were taught to hustle now, rest later. And, and that was the biggest scam for millennials. So a lot of us are compensating. You're not necessarily collapsing because you understand your trauma a bit. You understand you have ADHD, you got this, you got you understand all these things about yourself, but you are compensating because you're not living the life that you're supposed to really be living. You got all this power, but you are so unregulated that the power that you wield to be able, it's literally destroying you because you're not regulated enough to be able to hold it. See, this is why I be telling y'all when y'all be letting these folks with these fake magic and fake witches and fake, everybody want to be all of this stuff. But here's the truth of the matter. You cannot hold power if you lack stability. See, this is why when y'all be getting caught up talking about, oh, did she put a spell on this person? She did this. Let me tell you something. Most of these women that are out here are extremely unregulated and unstable. You couldn't hold power if you really wanted to because you misuse your power and you don't have the capacity to even show up for yourself. You don't even have the capacity to show up for yourself. And you think that you have power, that you can control somebody else? You can actually do things to do something to somebody else? Stop letting people play in your face. Stop letting people play in your face. Okay? Stop compensating. So now, since we talked about the misuse of power, let's get into fragmentation and what that actually looks like, okay? So here's where erosion begins. For the woman who is unregulated, has power, but unregulated power destroys the woman who wields it because she doesn't have regulation. She doesn't have the stability. So let's get into it. Here's where the erosion begins. This is when you begin to lose yourself. And when I'm talking about erosion, I'm talking about you losing the aspect of how you operate and who you are. When there is a gap between what you know, what you say, and what you enforce, that gap creates fragmentation. Most women, and I say this because I work with women, most women, they start losing themselves because there is a gap between what they know, what they say, and what they enforce. Let me give you a perfect example. You know, some of my favorite clients to work with that come in the door, and the reason why I say my favorite in the sense is because they come in and they're extremely honest. Okay? So I really enjoy working with women who have done work in the adult industry, right? They come in and they're straight, flat foot honest with me. They say, I don't want to use my body. I don't want to perform anymore to get paid. I don't want to get a check for performing. You know who gives me the hardest time when they first come in? This is the women who are extremely educated, the women who have gone to school, who have done all of these amazing things. They get on the phone and tell me about all the therapy they've done. They tell me all the books they've read, all the programs they've gotten, but yet here you are still on Zoom with me. Here you are still on Zoom with me. And you know why you're on Zoom with me? Because there's a gap between what you say, what you know, and what you actually enforce. You do not stand on business. If you don't do if what you know and what you say ain't what you enforce, don't stop lying, say you stand on business, because people see you. And just because people are not calling you out on the fact that you don't stand on business, the people who ain't calling you out on the fact that you don't stand on business are the people who are benefiting from the fact that you don't stand on business. Y'all be so silly saying things like, well, if he didn't like this, why would he just tell me? Why would he just go and do this? Why would he tell you when he's benefiting from you? What is the leverage in that relationship? You are being leveraged because you don't do what you say, what you know. Women who complain heavily to their partners, to their friends, in general in life, are women who are not prepared to change their lives. A complaint is an excuse. It's a way for you to express what you're feeling, but not actually take any form of action, which is why no one really will take you serious. You better speak on it. The scripture says the kingdom divided amongst itself cannot stand. A fact, double-minded, a fact, high loving. This is what we don't realize and we don't understand. When you are in a state of consistent complaining, you are not prepared to change the experience. You are not ready to do what it is. You want somebody to hear you because, again, you want to what? Feel understood, feel seen. Didn't we just talk about that? Didn't we just go into the space you want to see? You want people to see you and understand you? Let me tell you the truth. When you stop operating from a fragmented space, and you start doing what you know and what you say, what ends up happening is the people around you either need to align, they're either going to align with that frequency you want, or they're going to fall off. Thank you, my love, for these gifts, these likes, and these comments. You will realize that when you close the gap between what you know, what you say, and what you enforce, you will see the aligned people that belong in your space, because the people who don't belong will remove themselves. Let me tell you how I know. A liar cannot sit at the table with a truth teller. A liar could never last in my community. Never. I require the truth. It's a requirement to be in my space that you are truthful. It's a requirement. People ask me, well, how do people, get, let me tell you something. First level of even being able to get any form of time with me, I don't care if it's a woman, trying to get to know me in the sense of business or wanting, to connect, or if it's a man. You got to be authentic. You got to be accountable, and you got to be aware. You need to be aware of yourself and how your energy impacts others. You need to be accountable, because we all make mistakes, and I'm trying to see if you're going to run when you do something or you're going to own it. Thank you, my love, for these gifts, these likes, and these comments. And I need you to not only be accountable and aware, I need you to be authentic, because I need to know who I'm dealing with. That's the base level. That's the base level. That's for you to even get a little time with me. If you can't even get the base level, if I meet you and my first impression is that you violate one of them, I'm not even finna waste my time with you. Because one thing about me is that authenticity gonna get you in the door with me, but character is what keeps you in the door. That's the same thing I teach you and I tell y'all when it comes down to business. Authenticity will get you in the door, but your character is what keeps you in the door. And see, a lot of y'all, the character ain't right. And see, when the words ain't matching what you claim you know, and the actions ain't matching what you claim you know, it's a flaw, it's a gap. We concerned about you. But if I'm a predator, I'm not concerned about you. I'm concerned about continuing to benefit from you. So I'm not going to tell you what you're doing wrong so you can elevate yourself and decide not to fool me no more. I'm getting too much benefit off you not knowing your value. And that's what a lot of you are doing, which is why a lot of you end up being victims continuously in experiences. Nobody can play you without your permission, participation, or the fact that you simply are not paying attention. Real. Nobody can play you without your permission, participation, or the fact that you are not paying attention. Nobody is that good. Nobody is that good that you can't ask the creator of all things about them and not find out the truth about them. Nobody is that good that they're going to fool you. A lot of times you fool yourself. You fool yourself. That's the gimmick. And you fool yourself by thinking that you're going to attract somebody solid, whether it's a client, whether it's a man, whether it's a friend, when you don't stand on business yourself. You playing yourself. So if you want to wonder why you keep repeating them circles, you don't stand on nobody's business. You preach what you know. You speak what you know, but you don't live what you know. We don't see no fruit and no evidence in your life like that for real. So we don't trust you. We don't trust you. And that's big. Because we are in an economy now where trust and care are currencies. Trust and care are currencies in this society right now. Because we are living in a society where everything is being flipped around upside down and you don't even recognize what's happening in this world because it's so different. We are living in an economy of trust and care. People want to know that you care and people want to know that they can trust you. People can't trust somebody who shapeshift. People can't trust somebody who switch up, don't do what they say. People need consistency because the consistency is going to provide a clear path. Okay? So again, women start to lose themselves erosion begins when there's a gap between what you know, what you say, and what you tend to enforce. Okay? The gap creates fragmentation. This is when it starts to slowly chip away at you. It starts to slowly eat away at you. That's what's happening. It's just eating away. It's eating away. Okay? You'll have public composure where you'll be able to just hold it together and make it seem like you got all this stuff together. But the truth is, behind closed doors, privately, you override yourself. You override yourself. You show up as a public authority online, but behind closed doors, you got that private tension. You got that private tension. Thank you, my lovey. Okay? Fragmentation. Let me say this. High-functioning women rarely implode. Women who are high-functioning, they're the ones, they got all the therapy techniques. They know how to get their words together and do this and do that. They rarely implode, but they do fragment. And fragmentation looks like the tightness in your jaw that you get. It looks like the shallow breathing. It looks like the insomnia, the sleep you're not getting. It looks like the constant mental rehearsal, the cognitive rumination. It looks like you explaining too much because you want to be understood. It looks like you explaining too much because you want to be understood. It looks like you explaining too much because you want to be understood. You couldn't go. Why do you need to go into, I couldn't go because such and such, 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 such. You know why you're doing that? Because you don't want them to think that you are a bad person. But what you're not realizing is you're revealing how insecure you are. And I just uploaded a video about this. Y'all talk too much. Your inability to sit in silence, your inability to stop oversharing is a siren's call to a predator. It is a siren's call to a predator. You carry a smell, a stench that makes you so attractive because you are so insecure. Narcissists love insecurities. It's a difference between having insecurities and being an insecure woman. When you are an insecure woman, you are ruled by your insecurities and you see through the lens of your insecurities, which is why you have to ask women how you look. You should never have to ask a woman how you look. You are to know color theory. You are to know your face shape so you understand what hair works for you, what makeup works for you. You are to understand your body type because anybody can look good if you know what to put on. I had on a dress before this dress. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way I looked in it. So I put on the dress that made me look right. And I'm throwing the other one away. Okay? Understand your shape. Understand color theory. Understand your angles. Why are you asking them what you look like? You are fishing. You are fishing for knowledge that you should already know about yourself. Why don't you know that you're beautifully and wonderfully made? Why don't you understand that? Because you haven't read the declaration on it. I was having a conversation with my clients last night in the pattern interruption lab, and I was talking about the difference between a declaration and an affirmation. Y'all be getting it real confused and really wrong. And I want to help you today. I want to bless you today with this. A declaration is way more powerful than an affirmation. A declaration is a command. An affirmation follows the command. Do you understand what I'm telling you? It has been declared that I am beautifully and wonderfully made by the creator of all things, not the creator of the USA, the corporation, not the creator of this corporation over, not the creator of this business over here. It was declared that I am beautifully and wonderfully made by the creator of everything, not another creation, not society, which is the creation of man, but the creator of all things declared that about me. So when I look in the mirror, I affirm that truth because it is a command, and I live in that command of being beautiful, right? And that is how your beauty begins to radiate, because you have that knowing. And because I have that knowing, and because I say it, what did I just say? Because I know this, because I say it, I enforce it. And what does that make me do? Keep my beauty together at 42. Good evening and good night by working out, taking care of my skin and myself, only doing things that make me feel good. I don't have nobody out here stressing me out looking crazy because I don't play that. It is a command that I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. So why would I not keep that up? See, a lot of y'all trying to affirm things that you haven't come into understanding as a declaration first. Okay? When you declare something, you affirm it, which means you're in position to receive and amplify and exemplify that type of energy. That is an example of me standing on business when it comes down to my beauty. So let me tell you something, baby. If we trying to go somewhere, don't try to rush me. I'm gonna be where I need to be. But don't rush. Don't come over here rushing me. The feminine is not rushed, because I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. And before I leave this house, I'm gonna feel every essence of that command throughout my body. So if that means that you need to go because you feel like you need to rush me, let me let you go ahead and go. Because I'm honoring the command, because I stand on business. So when people see me, I could tell you take care of yourself. Yeah. So that means somebody come, they definitely got to be taking care of you. Yeah. You really need to grasp that and really, really understand that energy and stop letting people play with you. For real. Okay? So again, jaw tightness, shallow breathing, insomnia, the sleep you're not getting, the constant mental rehearsal, the explaining too much, the over communicating because you want to be understood. Okay? All of those things are causing you to fragment. Now go ahead and unclench your jaw on that. Realize that a lot of you sit with a jaw that's clenched. That's not stress. That's containment. You've normalized tension in your body. Some of y'all have normalized your back hurting, your lower back, your upper back. Y'all don't understand the connections between stress in your body? Do you understand around the area of your spine, there are nerves that wrap around to go into like digestion and other things? Your body be sending you signals and you're not even paying attention. See, nobody can play you without permission, participation, of the fact that you ain't paying attention. Not even your body. Not even your body. But you ignore your body like you ignore them red flags. Let me go ahead and go. You normalize the tension. And the tension is your inverted hierarchy working every single time. You're operating from a false identity. Okay? You're operating from a false identity, which is a misuse of power. And it is also causing you to erode, and you are losing yourself. See, this is how y'all be losing yourself in marriage. Marriage don't make you, I've been married. See, don't, marriage don't make you exhausted. It's not marriage that makes you exhausted. I don't have any children, so I can't speak on direct motherhood. I've reared and raised a lot of children who've lived with me and more for years. Marriage does not exhaust you. And even when I had children living with me during that time frame, that didn't exhaust me. You know why this didn't exhaust me? It was because I did things for me. If I'm cooking and I'm cleaning, I'm doing that for me. You get the benefit of that. If I'm taking care of me and I'm making sure that I am, filling my capacity cup, you get to benefit from that. Oh, I like this picture. This is beautiful. I'm gonna hang it up in the house. You get to benefit from the art being in the house. You get to benefit from me being in the fullness of my feminine energy. You get to benefit from that. I'm not cooking for you. I'm not cleaning for you. I'm doing it for me. See, the mindset is what positions you to be a slave, because then you don't even appreciate the fact that I cook and I clean for you. But hold tight, niece. Hold tight. What was you going to be doing if he wasn't here? What was you going to be doing if he wasn't here? So the only time you cook and clean and get yourself together is for him? Oh, no wonder why you're exhausted. You're performing wifehood. And every performance comes to an end. And when that performance comes to an end and you reveal yourself and rear your head, now we're going to have tension in the marriage, because he's looking at you like you a shapeshifter. Who is this? I don't like you. And if anybody know anything who's ever been married, baby, they need to like you. They may love you, but they need to like you, baby. Because if they don't like you, and you married to them, ooh-wee. And they don't like you because you don't like yourself. You pretended to be somebody else in this experience, and now you have manifested a monstrosity of a mess. And it tells you this in scripture. You can't manifest nothing from evil intentions and think you're going to sustain it. It tell you that in Proverbs. You ain't going to be able to keep that, baby. You ain't going to be able to hold that. See, this is why it's very intentional. See, y'all was listening to the Proverbs 31 woman scripture, but y'all wasn't listening. Do you understand that she was into real estate? But I want you to think about that metaphysically and metaphorically real quick. She was into real estate. Before she bought the land, yes, 23K, thank y'all so much. Before she bought land or invested in land, she scoped the land first. She made sure that it wasn't swampland. See, the Proverbs 31 woman was an extremely powerful woman, and she yielded her power. She yielded her power in relationship with her husband because her husband had the structure for her to be herself. She also was able to keep her capacity because she had women that were working for her in her business. She wasn't trying to do everything. She wasn't doing everything. So of course she was a delight to her man. She had systems. Sis was smart. She was wise. Wisdom is referred to as a her in scripture because it is feminine. Understand the divine feminine. Understand she was operating from her essence. That is why she was so much of a pleasure to her family, to her husband, and she could show up and she could serve. Why? Because she didn't misuse power. She didn't fragment. She didn't let herself go. She stood on business. These are the things that you have to start thinking about and really start considering. Because a lot of you are not operating from that energy because your internal hierarchy isn't stable. It's supposed to be identity, mind, emotions, behavior. A lot of you are behavior, emotions, behavior. Mind, emotions, behavior. Have no clue of your identity. Only the one you created to survive as a child. And a lot of you are still operating like that. Stop calling yourself independent. I told y'all that on the video that I pinned at the top. You're not independent. You grew up in a household where you were either neglected, you were in a space where you were forced and you had to show up and you had to become that leader. And you had to create that personality in order to survive. And that is the one who is out in the world right now. And if you don't Rid yourself of that identity and get rooted in your real identity, which is not according to what you do, it's literally who you are going to crash. This is why I tell women, be very careful what you identify yourself as. Because if you build your whole brand, and I talk to women about this all the time, women love to build their brands on being a wife. So I always ask the infamous question. Lord forbid something happened to your husband and you became a widow. Now what? Who are you outside of that? If all you do is identify yourself as being a mother, when your children get grown and get their own life, who are you outside of that? And these are the things that you are saying when people meet you and they say, tell me about you. You're talking about your roles. You're not talking about you. Why? Because you don't know you. You don't know you for real outside of this. And even though this is killing you to stay in this space of independence because you can't be vulnerable, you can't get the things that you need to get, the support that you are craving, you are desiring, you are staying in that space and complaining about how people are not showing up for you because you ain't really ready to make the real change. You ain't ready to quantum jump. You ain't ready to become the woman you really are because you're scared of what that looks like, because that is unknown to you. You are known to take care of things. So it scares you to not have your hand on it because it ain't going to be done right. When the reality of the situation is this: if you don't deal with that aspect of yourself, the rug will be snatched from under you, and you will have to realize that. You will have to see it for yourself. And I don't want that for you. Thank you, my love. Yes, 25,000. I don't want that for you. So let's get into the next piece after fragmentation and talking about the misuse of power. Now let's talk about the test aspect of this, okay? We talked about you normalizing tension, and the tension basically being your inverted hierarchy working overtime. Here's a test, okay? Real growth is going to destabilize you before it strengthens you. And what I mean by that, and I talked about this heavy and broke down this formula for my clients last night in the Pattern Interruption Lab. We talked about how you have to normalize being uncomfortable. You have to normalize being uncomfortable. The first time that you stick to your boundary when it comes down to your mother, which is blocking a lot of y'all in the area of speech, which is blocking your throat. Okay? So these are the things that when you set a boundary with your mother for the first time and you stand on business, hi, lovey, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel like you did something wrong. You're going to feel like, you're just going to feel bad. Sit in feeling bad. Because had you told your mama yes and went over there and did whatever she asked you to do with a nasty attitude without being cheerful, you are sowing an evil intention for yourself, because you're going to expect her to appreciate what you're doing when you didn't want to do it in the first place for real. And so here you are over here frustrated even more, then ruined your entire day when you could have just been uncomfortable for a few minutes or maybe for a day and had peace. For a lot of you, your speech is blocked. Your inability to be able to speak your truth and your needs is because of the block that you have here, because you have not spoken your truth when it comes down to your family. Family and friends are the hardest ones to set boundaries with because we love them so much. I did not understand the tightness in my throat. Yes, this is why when women come into the Pattern Interruption Lab, which the next cohort of the Pattern Interruption Lab will be starting on March 19th if you're interested in coming into the lab. But one of the things that we talk about, and I teach you before we even have our first session, I teach you and give you I give you the pattern recognition lens so you can figure out where in your body the tension rises when you have to do certain things. Because you feel it in your body, you just don't register it because there's no pause in between for you to pay attention. You're just so used to getting up and go, hey, can you do this? Yes, ma'am. Hey, can you? Yes, ma'am. Without even thinking if you have the capacity or any of these other things. So you're not even considering yourself. So of course your throat is going to tighten up because and I want you to think about this. Every single time that you are silencing yourself, it's a tightening. It's a tightening in the throat because you are closing off your ability to be able to speak your truth. And the truth is what sets you free. So you're creating a block. You can even go back and look at certain things and it shows you there's a big connection with Louise Hay. You Can Heal Your Life. It's a book. And she talks about, I believe, when it comes down to throat issues and thyroid and stuff like that, it's the inability to be able to speak your truth. You block yourself. You're protecting their feelings and blocking yourself. Okay? And so I want you to really understand that and realize that growth is going to destabilize you before it strengthens you. You're going to feel uncomfortable as hell setting boundaries with people you love. But you're going to have to be comfortable with that. Okay? Silence is going to feel very unsafe to you. Like, before it feels powerful. Like if you say no to somebody and they're not talking to you or they get upset about it, that's going to feel unsafe. It's going to feel like, oh my God, I'm going to lose this connection. No. You are teaching them to respect you. And if you lose the connection because of this, then they were using you anyway. They were using you anyway, because people who don't like the fact that you're setting boundaries are people who were benefiting from the fact that you weren't setting boundaries. And it's even more of a reason why you should be setting boundaries. So the silence and the different things are going to feel unsafe before they feel powerful. Boundaries feel extremely aggressive before they feel clean. Okay? So vital and so important. Not fixing things feels irresponsible before it feels authoritative. If you're used to going into somebody call you and they're calling you with their problems, they're calling you with all of these things, right? And your first normal reaction is to go in and fix their problem. But instead, this time you don't fix it. You actually just allow them to speak. You're going to feel irresponsible for not jumping in at first. But then you're going to come to the realization that it's their life. And let me tell you what helped me remember that it's people's life as a person who's very solution oriented. I'm a millennial, told you I'm 42. I used to love No Doubt, the group with Gwen Stefani. I'm talking about Chef's Kids. They would go on tour. I'm going. So I love No Doubt. And there's a song, I forgot the song. I want to say it's called It's Your Life. And it goes like, it's your life, don't you forget. And I always keep that in my mind. It's their life. Don't you forget. This is their decision, their choices, everybody grown. And you are not the Messiah. You are not here to be the martyr. You are not here to save people from their own self-destruction. If they ask you for it, insight and advice, they're going to appreciate what you give them. Okay? Even if they don't do what you want them to do, that means they're taking it into consideration. Okay? Which is way better than you trying to force and fix something where somebody ain't asking you for that. Okay? So not fixing things feels very irresponsible at first before it feels powerful. Most women tend to revert right there because being uncomfortable feels like danger to your nervous system because it's new. But what it really is that it's not that it's danger, it's recalibration. It's recalibration, because if you continue to relive the discomfort through your old behaviors, you fail the test of your own authority. That means that you fail the test of your own leadership. And let me tell you something that's true. When you fail the test of your own leadership, people stop trusting you, including your children. People stop trusting you, including your children. If you continue to relieve discomfort through your old behaviors, you're going to fail. People are not going to trust you. They're not going to believe your word. You're not standing on business. And the real risk of doing all of this is you end up being powerless. Can I tell you something truthful? And I'm saying this because I really want women to understand this. And I'm not playing. The worst position for you to be in 2026 and beyond is to be in a powerless position. That means that your destiny is to be a consistent victim, because there's a misuse of power, there's a fragmentation, and we are not passing the test. Okay? When you are powerless, that means that you begin to try to outsource power from others. You will outsource love via a man. This is what a lot of you call being male-centered. See, being male-centered, you can talk about men and not be male-centered. Being male-centered comes from the space of outsourcing your power via a man. What is outsourcing your power via a man looks like? Looking for a man to love you when you don't love yourself. Looking for, because love is a power source, looking for a man to provide for you because you cannot provide for yourself. When you say things like, I don't like being around women or men who make statements like, well, in this economy, I need help because I can't afford my bills. That tells me that you're living on a limited perception. And that limited perception is creating your reality. So you don't even believe that you can bypass this. You don't believe that you have skill sets that corporations will pay you hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands and even millions for. You don't believe in yourself. You don't believe what God says. See, this is where it really gets to with me. You don't believe what the Most High said. And if a lot of y'all claiming to be believers, you don't believe what the Most High said because the Most High said you have creative and witty inventions in your very being according to Proverbs 8 and 12. So what you're telling me is that you're not tapped into these gifts according to Proverbs 8 and 12, which means that these gifts cannot make room for you because you are not tapped into them. So we ain't even got nothing to talk about. We don't even have nothing to talk about because we're not even on the same wavelength. You think too small. You think too small. If you tell me I gotta get a man so he could provide for me, I'm not your homegirl for that. Now, don't get it confused. Men should definitely be coming into your space and investing, cause I don't play that. Investments are required, okay? But here's the thing: it's not because I need you to take care of me, because I am self-sufficient. I can take care of myself. But the reality of the situation is, with me understanding that I am taking care of myself, if you're going to come into my space and pull from my currency, my soul currency, you're going to pull from my time, you're going to pull from my energy, you're going to pull from my attention, you're going to pull from my gifts and my beauty. And we talk. And when you believe that you're powerless, you will outsource these things. And this is how a lot of women become victims. A lot of our ancestors, okay, and the marriages that they were in was because they needed a man to provide for them because they did not have options back then. See, that was a different time. Women didn't have a lot of options. You couldn't really do a lot of stuff. You had to. Women be like, oh, I wouldn't have stayed and dealt with all this. And, she cheating and y'all talking about happy relationships. Let me tell you something. She couldn't go nowhere. She couldn't get no bank account. She couldn't get her own house. She didn't have no money. A lot of our ancestors lived in survival mode in order for us to be able to thrive. But because a lot of us don't know who we are, we don't realize that their ceiling is our damn floor. You had, even if you didn't have no money that they left you, you had a head start with their lessons if you would simply pay attention to the people that came before you. This is why I tell you in that 3-part aspect of studying your generational psychology of the women that came before you, so you can pay attention to the voids and the loops and the holes so that you can correct those things. So you don't fall into those cycles and circles, because time cycles and circles. Thank you, my love, for these gifts and these follows and these likes. That's what we're not understanding. So the worst thing that you can do in this society is to be powerless. Okay? And the next thing that's even more dangerous is for you to be powerful but not have no containment. That means you just walking around here being able to do things and get things done, but you don't have any systems. You don't have a container to hold you. You're not keeping your own self up. Okay? Unregulated power looks like this: talking when silence holds more weight. Y'all are so insecure with yourself that when a conversation on the phone with somebody gets quiet, you got to break the silence because you're so uncomfortable sitting in silence. Do you not realize that people who understand certain things know that that signals high level insecurity? Do you understand that you are a predator's dream when you do that? Okay? Unregulated power also looks like emotional honesty that's actually discharged. Oh, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just saying what's on my mind. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Because the way that y'all will wrap your bitter projections into some form of truth that is only truly relevant to you because it's your internal experience, and the way that you were projecting onto somebody else in the form of keeping it real is real disgusting like. Because you really are just discharging all over them. That's not emotional honesty. You making them your target. See, this happens a lot also with caregivers who are taking care of parents. There sometimes become a stage in a parent's life where, they're trying to adjust with their new reality and not being as this and not being able to be as self-sufficient and all of these things. They have a saying that says, twice a baby, once a lady, right? And so we always crack jokes about parenting our parents because they're trying to adjust to this period. And so they're acting like children and they have tantrums and they are discharging on you because you are the closest thing to them. They are discharging on you and calling it emotional honesty because they don't know how to regulate because they weren't taught to regulate. It wasn't important to regulate. This generation is just too weak, but it's discharge. And see, a lot of you think that because you've gone to therapy and you've done these things, you've reframed this discharge to, I'm just speaking my truth, which is basically another form of a projection of your feelings and your thoughts and your experience, where you're trying to convince someone else to hear you, understand you, or even see you for that matter. Unregulated power. Unregulated power also looks like helping when structure is required. You trying to help somebody do something and you got stuff you need to be working on. You're helping this person with their resume so they can get a better position. Or you're helping this person to do this when you could be sending them to someone who can help them do that, and you could be holding your energy for what's necessary. You doing that person's resume is none of your business. It's not your business unless you're being paid for that. So why are you helping when structure is required? Another form of unregulated power and what it looks like is being indispensable instead of authoritative. People wake up with you on their mind. They got plans for you. Hey, can you help me do this? They already know in their mind, oh, I'm about to move today. I'm just, such and such ain't doing nothing. I'm just going to call them. They ain't doing nothing. I'm going to call them. They going to say yeah. They always say yeah. Y'all know what I'm talking about. For real. Thank you, my love. All praises to the Most High. The next thing when it comes down to unregulated power and what it looks like is being reliable but not protected. Being reliable but not protected. Being reliable but not protected. Oh, people can always call you because you're always so reliable. You're going to always get everything done. But when it comes down to protecting your feelings, protecting your heart, hell, protecting your physical body, they ain't nowhere to be found. Being reliable, being, known as that dependable, those are code words for, you allow me to, you're there. Okay? What you have to realize is that you can scale capacity faster than a lot of you can scale structure. The gap is the erosion part that I talked about, and erosion is quiet. A woman doesn't lose herself overnight. She loses herself over time. Somebody put time in the comments for me. A woman doesn't lose herself overnight. She loses herself over time. And this is why it's extremely important for you to understand time, the importance of time. That's why I told women who purchase the pattern recognition lens that getting the pattern recognition lens and getting the time code that teaches you how to jump timelines is really important, because not only do you recognize the pattern that's holding you back, I'm using the time formula to teach you how to flip it and not do it anymore and put yourself into another reality. And it does not take you a long time to do. You just have to really get into the space of doing it. If you want the pattern recognition lens, it's $111. You can get a recliner firm and Afterpay, and the link is in the bio. Get that, get the free time code, and start changing your life. Because the reality of the situation is a lot of you are wasting away, because fading away is a quiet experience, but it comes from you not doing what you know, what you say. You position yourself to continue to lose time. So let's talk about the cost of you losing that time and that erosion over time, okay? If nothing changes in the next 90 days for you, let's just give you that timeline, right? Your income, it may not necessarily collapse, but it is going to plateau. Thank you, my love, for these gifts and these likes. It's going to stay right here. You're going to have a ceiling. Some of you have a 100K ceiling. Some of you have trying to do everything to get past this number in business, and it's just not happening for you, because that's what happens when you start eroding. Okay, that's when erosion starts. So your income will not necessarily collapse, but it will plateau. Your relationships may not necessarily explode, but they will thin out. See, it's two things, and when it thins out, let me tell you where it thins out at. It thins out in two areas, one of two areas. It either thins out in the area of desire, because you notice that the person doesn't desire you anymore, or it dwindles down with respect. So either desire dwindles or respect dwindles when we're talking about the relationship thinning. And for a woman, it's a very dangerous spot to be in. When you are in a relationship with someone who lacks desire but respects you, see, that means I respect your power, but I don't really want to do the work necessary to set the container or the structure up so you can expand in that power. I respect it though. I'm benefiting from it. It's good for me to use. See, a lot of women are respected in their scenarios and not desired. Okay? And then it's another dangerous spot to be in if desire is the only primary energy in that space. So yes, I love using your body as a bucket. Yes, I love, feeling this and doing that. But I don't respect you enough to stick around, but I'm still benefiting. I don't respect you enough to give you what you want because I'm still benefiting. Okay? So your relationships may not necessarily explode, but they will thin. Your authority, which is basically your leadership, it may not necessarily shatter, but it will dull. This is how your children stop respecting you. And this is a really good lesson, if you keep saying that you're going to set out a punishment for your child because they did XYZ, next time I'm going to punish you, and then next time comes, you don't enforce that. Each time you do that, your child loses respect for you. Each time you don't honor your word, respect is lost. So people don't follow people they don't respect. People don't listen to people they don't respect. And it's true because you would never listen to a man that you don't respect. So the reality of the situation is your authority will not necessarily shatter, but it will dull over time. They will slowly but surely continue to lose respect for you over time. Next thing, if nothing happens, it changes in the next 90 days. Your nervous system may not necessarily break, but it will continue to tighten. It will continue to hold. And see, the body is supposed to release, receive, and reject. So when you hold on to something, waste. When you hold on to something, illness. When you hold on to something too tight, it creates sickness and disharmony within the body. Dis-ease means a lack of harmony within the body. Okay? So again, that's if nothing changes in the next 90 days. Hey, lady of the house. That's if nothing changes over the next 90 days. That's the danger. You don't necessarily implode, but you do diminish as a woman. You'll still be competent. Hold that question for me, boo. I'm almost at the end. You'll still be competent, but you'll just be smaller. because you'll be operating from a smaller place. And every single quarter of this year, because we're already in quarter one, in a minute we're going to be in quarter two. Every quarter that you stay or you delay structural correction by actually stabilizing your internal hierarchy, you reinforce containment for yourself, and containment compounds. You won't necessarily notice it loudly, but you'll notice it with things like stress, which could create heavier cycles, shorter patience, less creative risk that you're taking, more emotional fatigue, and then you start developing this subtle resentment as well for the people around you. That's erosion. I just gave you the formula of how your ancestors, and not just, and your living ancestors, the women that came, why they so bitter? Why they so bitter? Because them being unregulated and having power, being able to do X, Y, Z, it literally destroyed them. It literally destroyed them. And now a lot of it came from the decision making and not standing on business. Like I said, knowing something, saying something, and not doing something. But now they're in a space where they're actually looking at their life. And it's been over time chipping away at them. And so now they're in a state of bitterness. That is erosion. So I want to say something very, very direct here. If you're thinking, oh yeah, this makes so much sense, I already knew this, or if that's the case, then your results should reflect that. You should be able to look at your life right now and your results reflect the life that you actually know this. So if your hierarchy is clean, if you are operating from identity, mind, emotion, behavior in that order, then your authority would be effortless because you know who you are, so you know how to move. A queen knows who she is. She knows where to be and how to move. So she's not going to present herself like a peasant. You only present yourself based on what you know and what you believe about yourself. Extremely important. Yes, coherence. So the thing is this, if your structure was aligned, then expansion would feel extremely lighter. Knowledge without visible recalibration is literally containment. You stay in the same space. You don't need more understanding. And a lot of you believe that you might. You need correction. You need correction. If you are building, or you're in a space where you're building influence, you're building income, you're building visibility, you're building leadership. I don't care if you're doing it in business, you're doing it in a relationship, you're doing it at home. You cannot afford an internal inversion. You cannot afford to be operating from anything other than your identity first. But you're going to have to be clear on that. And the order code exists for that very reason. Okay? Now, to correct the hierarchy before your authority expands further, that's what this is for. So it's 3 days. It's the 23rd, the 25th, and the 27th. No motivation, no therapy, no venting. Let me tell you one thing that we don't do in my communities. We don't trauma dump. Let me tell you what we don't do in any of my communities. We don't trauma dump. I don't allow that. See, a lot of online spaces have been created to allow people to come in and pour poison into their spaces by narrating stories over and over and over again that turns into complaints about how basically they're not going to change their life. I don't want to hear that. Thank you, my love, for these gifts and these likes. I don't want to hear that. As a woman who has had to start her life over 3 times already at 42, I'm never scared to lose nothing and start over. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear no excuse. Because the reality of the situation is this. You have to make some decisions that are going to be different if you want to live a different life. Period. So 3 days, 3 hours total. We're going to map your hierarchy. We're going to locate the inversion where you're really operating from. And we're going to reposition your leadership so that you can actually not have this wobbly identity. Your wobbly identity is why you attract inconsistent men. Your wobbly identity is why you bring in inconsistent clients. Your wobbly identity is why people don't stick around in your space and don't trust you. You don't stand on business for yourself. I know this, right? 47 is starting over in unashamed, period. Let me tell you something, baby. I had to start over at 60. I could. And that's the thing that you have to know. So when you come into the space of the order code, if you are trying to scale without structure anywhere in your life, Your nervous system becomes the shock absorber, and eventually it's going to fail. Yes, 49 is starting over. I know that's right. It's going to fail. Okay? So let's stop being abstract about this and playing small here. Okay? The order code starts Monday. It's $250. You can get it with Klarna, Affirm, and Afterpay. The last day to get it at $250 is going to be midnight. No, it's going to be midnight tomorrow. The price is going to go up to $333. Okay? It's 3 days. In those 3 days, we're going to go over and make sure that you get orientation to a space where your hierarchy is no longer inverted, going down the wrong way, but it's actually correct. Okay? You also get a Telegram group. We're going to be in a Telegram group for 5 days. So you're going to get your information. 6 days. You're going to get the Telegram information Sunday. You join the Telegram group. You introduce yourself. We're going to have our sessions on Mondays. Okay? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So the way the sessions are going to work, I am going to do a 12 o'clock session, and there's going to be a replay on Monday and Wednesday of that 12 o'clock session at 6 p.m. if you cannot make the 12 o'clock session. You also, on Friday, it's going to be noon. You also get a copy of this, and you will have it for a year. Okay? So once you come into this space, this is going to support you in the starting steps of stabilizing your internal hierarchy, which is extremely important in this world, especially right now. Okay? So if you stay in your current structure right now, your income is going to be in the same tier because you're not operating from the identity space. Your authority probably is still going to be compromised because you're not really doing what you say and enforcing what you live by. And you're going to keep carrying things you should. You're going to feel real capable, but you're going to be capped because you are capping yourself. When you spend your time, energy, and attention focused on things that are not returning you value into your bank, you end up in the deficit. Okay? And it happens over time. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. So here's the thing I need you to understand. You're not deciding whether or not you want to buy a workshop. You're deciding whether or not your current hierarchy stays in charge. You're going to keep letting your emotions run your life. You're going to keep allowing your overthinking mind to run your life. Or you're going to keep just doing things and operating from the space of your behavior. And if you're not yielding the results that you want, then that's just what it's going to be because you want to keep operating for that. But if you want to operate from identity, and if you are in a space where you're like, your logic is trying to calculate whether 250 is worth it or not, that's inversion. I don't want you. I'm not looking for you at all. The order code is structural installation. It's 3 days, okay? If you cannot commit to 3 hours a week to correct your internal hierarchy that's governing your income and your authority, then the plateau is not the problem. Your tolerance is. And you need to figure that out, truthfully. So you can come into this space and get the order code for $250. You can click the link in the bio to be able to get access to it. The price point is going to stay that price point until midnight on, I'm going to say 10 p.m. on Saturday night because I can't do midnight Saturday night for my YouTubers. But 10 p.m. Saturday night is going to shift. Yes, it's going to be 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're going to have the Telegram group for 6 days. So how it's going to go is that we're going to have our sessions on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're going to talk about the things that we went over. Friday is going to be a closeout day. We're not doing anything Friday evening. I keep Sabbath, so I won't be doing anything on Friday evening. That's going to be the end of it. So you come in, you have community, you have access to me. Well, if you have any questions about anything that we talked about, I will answer your questions in the Telegram chat. So you will have access to me for that time frame because I'm not a person who likes to just give you this and not make sure that you really understand it. No, I need you to understand it because your life depends on it. I need you to understand it because your life depends on it. I need you to understand it because your life depends on it because we're talking about your income here. And we're talking about your identity here. And those two things are very important when it comes down to how you're going to live on this earth. So, very, very vital, very, very important. I'm not leaving you alone out here in these streets, okay? What questions do you have for me? Drop your questions in the comments. If you are in a space where you're like, okay, I love the information with the order code, but I'm not ready, at least get the pattern recognition lens for $111, because that is going to at least show you where you are consistently repeating things. Women don't lose time from a space of, oh, I spent all my years doing this. Oh my God, I wasted time. Women waste time repeating cycles. If you get the pattern recognition lens and you get the time code, you're no longer going to waste time, because you're going to understand where you keep cycling and repeating the same situations over and over and over again, whether that is attracting through the same man, seem like you always have these type of friends that use you. There's a pattern there that has to be addressed, and the pattern recognition lens walks you through the process. It's basically a diagnostic, and it walks you through the process of figuring out what patterns are literally destroying your life, how they show up in pain in regard to your body. It is also letting you know how to stop it. Okay, once you learn how to stop it because you're aware of it, then you go use the time code, which is the free guide up there, the mathematical formula to time jumping. You go and you use the time code now because you understand the patterns that are messing you up. Now you can use the time code to do something different, to create a whole different alternative or alternate reality for yourself. So if you've been wanting to quantum jump into a new reality, if you've been wanting to quantum jump into a new tax bracket, if you have been wanting to quantum jump into a reality that supports you in the way that you know you are supposed to be supported, then get the pattern recognition lens for $111, get the time code for free. You can get the time code for free, but if you don't understand the patterns, it's a waste of time. I'm just going to tell you the truth. You can get the time code if you want by itself, because it is free up there, but you are wasting your time if you're not getting the pattern recognition lens too, because you don't even know what you need to interrupt. So now you got the formula for time, but you don't really know what to do. Okay, so those two are perfect if you are ready to go deeper and actually correct this issue, so you know how to yield, how to wield your power, how to actually utilize it in a massive way. Then definitely come into the order code. Okay, so do we cover what the pattern recognition lens and the time code has in the course? Are you talking about in the order code? No. The order code is focusing on you operating so that your identity isn't wobbly. This is for a lot of women. Women are shapeshifters. Most women are shapeshifters. If you have not risen above your carnal nature, meaning like done the internal work, actually work through your shadows and come into the light to look into the mirror, to do mirror work, then 9 times out of 10, you're still operating from the shadows, whether you realize it or not. Women at core are naturally manipulative, right? Men at core are naturally exploiters. We are here as women to manipulate energy because that's our power. Men are here to exploit systems. The problem comes into play is that society has tricked us into believing that we are enemies. And because of that, men exploit women and women manipulate men. And that's not how this was supposed to be. So when we're talking about in the order code, we're going back to your authentic identity so you don't shift and shake and change, which disrupt your reality and your timeline and the things that you want to create and the things that you want to do. So the order code is going to give you the structure, install the structure necessary so you operate from that structure. The pattern recognition lens and the time code, the pattern recognition lens is going to allow you to see the pattern. It's going to allow you to recognize the pattern, okay? And then it's going to support you in making the change with the timeline jump. Child, I might need all 3 because I'm moving and wobbling identity and I keep repeating. My recommendation for you, starting point, honestly, if you wobbling, come into the order code. Come into the order code because we're going to address some aspects of like what patterns look like. So you'll be able to see them. But come into the order code because then you get to ask me direct questions and I'm right there to answer them for you in the Telegram group. Because coming into the pattern recognition lab, there's no community that backs you up. I'm basically giving you the diagnostic, I'm giving you the time code, and you're on your own with that. But if you come into the code, you get me. And the majority of the time, honestly, the women want to have the conversation with me because they want flat foot answers, flat foot solutions. And I don't have the censoring that takes place on social media. I can say really what I want to say. The stuff that, I know is coming that I can't say on this app that's going to get me banned. Those are the things that I'm going to be discussing in the order code, because I need women to be in order so that everything else reorganizes itself the way it's supposed to. So definitely, I would say come into the order code if you were seeking and you're trying to figure out which one. But if you just want to recognize and you're like, no, I think this is a bit much, then get the pattern recognition lens and get the free time code. Okay? What questions, if any questions, excuse me, of any questions, what questions do you all have? Any more before I get ready to go? I told my sister we was going to lunch today. And I'm about to text her. We're going to lunch and we're going to work out. So what questions do y'all have before I go? Awesome. I can't wait to see you in the order code. And remember, the order code price point is changing tomorrow night. So go ahead and get it for the $250 price point. And what else I was going to say? Get it for the $250 price point, because I don't want you to have to deal with the $333. And then Sunday, I'm going to send you a link for the Telegram group that I'm so excited about. One of the things in my programs I love the most is I love the Telegram groups and being able to connect with my community and the women who are coming into the space to do the work. So I'm excited to have you. It's going to be a great week next week. I'll praise to the Most High. I'm speaking that in advance, Most High willing. So I'm not seeing any questions. So what I will say is thank y'all for being here on this Feminine Friday. Self-care is the key fundamental of every single relationship, because you set the tone of how people treat you by the way you treat yourself. You should treat yourself exceptionally well because you deserve that, okay? But if you don't think you deserve that, I'm not going to argue with your perception of self. I am going to challenge you to assess yourself differently, okay? You are so welcome from formidable figure. I love watching you on live too. I be catching you here and there, so I love coming in there and just pouring into you and watching you give out the amazing wisdom that you give out to your community. So I love that. So I love when I see you and I see the live button. You are so welcome. All right, y'all. I hope that y'all have an amazing weekend. Thank y'all for being here. This is going to be on YouTube. But like I said, y'all, my YouTube channel is changing. Going into March, you're going to see the lives looking a bit different. You're going to go over there and be able to get a nice little snippet. But if you want the full replay and the full video, you're going to have to get behind closed doors and become a paid subscriber on my YouTube channel, because a lot of my juice and things are going to be going for them. I'm trying to see if I'm going to work on the TikTok subscription over here to kind of give like and put some lives and stuff on here, but give me a little time to try to figure out how to navigate that. We're going to see. I think if you go over there and you sign up for my paid membership subscription on YouTube, I think it's like $6.99. So it's like $6.99 a month. So if you go over there, I think it's like $6.99 or $9.99, I can't remember. But you go over there and you get those lives. And then also, I go live with my paid community on Sundays, where it's kind of like question and answers. And so they also get videos every Wednesday. So they get videos every Wednesday from the archives of things that I don't really release to the public. And then I turn around and give them a strategy to be able to shift them for their week. So last week we talked about the good girl conditioning, and I gave them 5 steps to the good girl detox, because nice girls always finish last because they never put themselves first. Okay. And so I'm teaching them how to put themselves first. It's some amazing women over in that community in my paid YouTube. I also have Substack, and my Red Knowledge Tree Substack is basically all my spiritual knowledge, light feminine things. I have another Substack called The Black Sanctum, where I talk about erotic intelligence and dark feminine things. And I am releasing an exclusive Substack that is going to solely be helping entrepreneurs make their revenue goals. So that one is going to be a paid subscription. It's going to be 4 letters every single week with instructions that support you in like taking action to moving your business forward. It's going to be $197 a month, because I'm not really doing master classes that much anymore. So I'm going to be dropping those 4 letters. I'm going to be dropping an audio, and I'm going to be giving some video information over there. So if you have been trying to get your revenue together, you know you got to, yes, formidable figure, come over there because you have the audience. If you know you got an audience, you need to be making money. Because if they're sticking with you and being with you all this time, they are wanting to invest in you. And if not, we need to get rid of the stragglers so the people who want to pay you can pay you. Because a lot of you are too gifted to be sitting on the money. And so I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking about money, but that Substack is going to be solely based on like revenue. And we're going to be talking about client attraction, going to the depths of that. And what are my qualifications? I've built a multi-six-figure business from scratch. This is not my first business. I've made a lot of mistakes in my last business. I've made mistakes in this business. And so I am giving you everything so you can avoid a lot of the stuff that I went through, okay? All right, y'all. That is coming out in March. So be on the lookout on my email list for that. And I will see y'all soon. I hope that y'all have an amazing, amazing weekend. Peace, y'all.